last night was a pretty surprising outcome. Now, I don't mean surprising in the fact that San Francisco won last night. I think while that is probably, it's not what Vegas thought was going to happen. It's probably not exactly what LA Rams fans were thinking was going to happen. It might not even be the outcome that San Francisco 49ers fans thought was going to happen. But the surprising part to me is that San Francisco, even though it went to overtime, San Francisco held a lead for a majority of the game last night, and they even had a chance at the end of regulation to win the game. They didn't come through. They end up going to overtime. They win off of a field goal kick from Eddie Pinheiro, and they force the LA Rams to turn the ball over on downs. You can debate whether or not it was a bad decision from the Rams to go for it at that point. They are on the San Francisco 11, and they decide to kick the field goal. But I guess that's kind of a conversation of, would you rather lose the game or would you rather tie the game? I'd rather tie the game. That's just my personal opinion. There's a few other things I think to talk about. This performance that we got from Mac Jones last night, I'm not calling Mac Jones an MVP caliber player. I'm not even saying he's in the conversation. How he performed last night was an MVP caliber performance, especially when you consider the fact that on the other side of the ball, Matthew Stafford himself had an incredible performance. Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, again, 15 receptions, over 170 yards combined between those two guys. San Francisco had their own passing attack working pretty well as well. Kendrick Bourne, 10 catches for 142 yards. Christian McCaffrey, 8 for 82 and a touchdown. Jake Tonjes, 7 catches for 41 yards and a touchdown. This looked like the well-oiled machine that we see from San Francisco when they have Brock Purdy in there, when they have Christian McCaffrey at the top of his game, when they have Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. And they still had the same type of really good performance. The offensive line performed really well. The defense, they didn't have but one sack in the game. They still, I think, affected Matthew Stafford. His stat line shows 30 for 47. There were some throws in there, and I think this has kind of been a common thing for Stafford. He's been a little bit inaccurate this year. And that's something that you kind of get. You get the wow plays with Stafford. You also get some inaccuracies from time to time. But San Francisco, when they needed to, they got that fourth down stop. Again, whether or not you agree with the decision, I necessarily don't. But San Francisco still had to step up and win in that situation, and they did. Something that I do think is an important aspect of how this game played out last night, this was a pretty much a home game for the San Francisco 49ers. Not only because it's still in the same state, San Francisco going to LA, but the fans. This was like almost a completely red stadium in the stands. I don't think I really saw many blue jerseys in the stands. It was pretty much all red. Probably 70 to 75% 49ers fans in that stadium. That's a pretty tough look if you're an LA Rams fan. Now, LA in general, even the Dodgers, even the Lakers, even if you're a team that is competing for championships or have won championships in the past, there's a good chance you're not going to have a lot of fans at your stadium in every single game. And if your fans are there, they're probably showing up late. But for the LA Rams to have that type of fan takeover from the San Francisco 49ers, it's a bit of a bad look. And it's probably the worst part about the LA Rams loss last night. It was their first loss at home, second in total, and it was a complete takeover from San Francisco 49ers fans. Now, this win gives San Francisco a lot of momentum, not only because it puts them first in the NFC West, but now they have 10 days until they play their next matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. So that's definitely going to be way more of a road game feel. They're not going to have their own fans, not as many in the stands as they did in LA. And it's going to be probably the best offensive they've faced so far in terms of the ability to just put up points, whether through the air or on the ground. Bucky Irving may or may not be playing in that game. I think he's been either ruled out or he's doubtful for Tampa Bay's game this week. And so it's going to be an interesting matchup. I see Tampa Bay probably taking that game because I feel like at this point Tampa Bay is the better team. But still, it should be a good matchup. We don't know yet if guys like George Kittle or Brock Purdy or Ricky Pearsall or we don't know a lot. There's a lot of guys we don't know if they're playing or not in Week 6. But with the performance that they put up against the Rams last night, you almost feel confident going into Tampa Bay that it's still going to be a competitive matchup between the Niners and the Bucs. Now, as far as the Rams are concerned, they go to Baltimore next week. It's a game you can't really put your finger on because Lamar is missing this week's game for the Ravens. We don't know about a lot of the other injuries, especially defensively, that Baltimore has. They did just rule out Nnamdi Madubuike for probably the rest of the season, which is a massive blow to that defensive line and defense and team as a whole. But, LA, the magic number so far has been 26. If a team has scored 26 points against the LA Rams, they've beat them. Every time LA has held a team to 20 points or less, the Rams have won. In Baltimore, if they're close to full strength, even if it's just Lamar is playing, they're a team that could easily put up 26 points in a game. Now, LA, they've scored the most points in the NFC West. Technically, they've allowed the most points in the NFC West as well, but that's considering that Seattle and Arizona have both played one game less than them. But at the same time, I think offensively, the Seahawks have proved to be probably a better team. Defensively, they're statistically a better team than the Rams, even though I think I like the Rams' defense more than Seattle's. Definitely more than Arizona's and probably more than San Francisco's with the injuries that San Francisco has. I think this is a game where we'll look back and think, this was a loss for the Rams, but they could have won it. They could have even settled to try to take a tie, and they end up losing the game. It's week 5. It's nothing to hold your head down over. It's nothing to freak out about. It just was a loss against a good team who, even though has a lot of injuries, still is performing at a high level. That's going to be today's video about last night's game. If you want me to talk, or I guess if you disagree with anything I talked about, whether it was for the Rams or for the Niners, leave a comment down below. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.